So now let us move on to the hyperbola at center 0, 0. So a hyperbola can be vertical or horizontal. So that depends on the equation or the standard equation. So if the equation is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to 1, the hyperbola is horizontal. But if the equation is y squared over a, that should be squared. So if the equation is y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared is equal to 1, then our hyperbola is vertical. And we should note that we can only call the standard equation as an equation of hyperbola if the symbol in the middle of x squared and y squared is subtraction.
And always na unang a squared kahit mag-interchange si x and y.
Before we proceed with an example, let me first show you the parts of a hyperbola. So we have 7 parts. We have the transverse axis, the conjugate axis, the vertex, the co-vertex, the focus, the asymptote, and of course, the center at 0, 0. So we have here a guide in sketching a hyperbola. So let A greater than 0, B greater than 0, and C be equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. So in the table, if the equation in standard form is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to 1, and y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared is equal to 1, we have their corresponding center, transverse axis, conjugate axis, vertices, foci, asymptote, and equation of A. So, it depends kung saan dito yung equation ng i-sketch natin na graph. So, to further understand, let us have an example. So, sketch the graph of the hyperbola with an equation in standard form of x squared over 25 minus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. Since that is our equation given, we notice that it is in the form x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. So, i-check natin yung column na yun at yan ang susundin nating guide. But first, let us find a, b, and c. So, we know that a squared is 25 and b squared is 9 and c is equal to the square root of a squared and b squared, so that is 25 plus 9. So the square root of 25 is 5 and that is our a. The square root of 9 is 3 and that is our b. And 25 plus 9 is 34, so the square root of 34 is 5.83 and that will be our c. And since we already know that our center is at point 0, 0, the next step that we will do is to find for the foci. So here we will now follow the guide. So kung napapansin yung naka-encircle, so yan yung ipa-follow natin na guide para sa pagkuha ng foci. So our foci is, or the first focus is negative c, 0, and we know that our c is 5.83. So that is negative 5.83 and 0. Our second focus is C0. So that is 5.83 and 0. So that is our foci. So next we will find for the vertices. So yung naka-encircle, nakatapat ng vertices at nung check, yun yung susundin natin. So the first vertex here is negative a, 0, and our a is 5, so that is negative 5 and 0. And our second vertex is a, 0, so that is 5, 0, so that is at 0.50. So since the center, foci, and vertices are already determined, we can now locate it in our Cartesian plane. So in our graph, we have the center at the origin or at point 0, 0, and our focus or first focus at negative 5.830 and positive 5.830 in our second focus. And in our first vertex, we have negative 50, and our second vertex, we have the point 50. Next, we have also to find conjugate axis. So the conjugate axis, yung naka-encircle dito, so the vertical length should be 2b. That is vertical length. Pag horizontal naman, horizontal length. So since our b is 3, and to find the conjugate axis, that is 2b, so meaning that is 2 times b is our 3, so that is equal to 6. So the conjugate axis or the vertical length of our conjugate axis is 6 units. So we will count 3 units above our center and 3 units below our center, so that there will be 6 units in our conjugate axis. After that, we can already draw rectangle in our Cartesian plane. So the rectangle should be along the vertex 1 and 2 and the end point of our conjugate axis. So we can also now draw the 2 slanting lines passing through our center to the edges of our rectangle. So we can now write the equation of RA in the 2 slanting lines. So that will be y is equal to positive negative b over a x. So since our b is 3 and our a is 5, so that is y is equal to negative 3 over 5 because the slope of this line is negative. And the other slanting line, y is equal to 3 over 5 is its equation because the slope of this line is positive. So the hyperbola will not be completed without the 2 curved lines. So in sketching the 2 curved lines, that must be touching the 2 vertices. And these 2 curved lines will never meet the 2 slanting lines or asymptotes. So that would be all for the hyperbola at center 0, 0.